All right, you bastards, buckle up, because today we're diving into some real Wild West shit.
Way more fucked up than some alien bullshit in Roswell.
You got that right. We're talking about the Hispanos of New Mexico.
A group whose history is wilder than a peyote trip.
These folks descended from the first Spanish settlers in New Mexico.
They have a heritage and culture all their own.
Distinct from Mexican Americans.
They've weathered some serious shitstorms.
Spanish rule.
Mexican independence.
And even had the goddamn Comanches breathing down their necks for a century.
That's right.
Okay, so let's cut the crap. New Mexico, before the U.S. decided it needed another star on its flag, what's the deal?
Imagine this. It's the 1500s, and this badass Spaniard, Don Juan de Oñate, shows up with 500 settlers, soldiers. And get this, 7,000 head of cattle.
Holy shit.
Dude basically did the OG cattle drive.
Way before those cowboys in Texas even thought about it.
Exactly. They set up shop, call it the Kingdom of New Mexico.
And of course, piss off every Native American tribe in the vicinity.
Sounds about right.
Force your way in, claim it for God and King. But hold up.
What?
Those Spanish priests, those Franciscans, I bet they weren't exactly handing out daisies and hugs to the natives, were they?
Oh, hell no. Those brown-robed bastards were on a mission from God, or so they thought, to convert everyone to Christianity.
And make them as Spanish as a bullfight.
Problem was, subtlety wasn't exactly their strong suit.
Oh, really?
They're more like a goddamn inquisition waiting to happen.
So they were the assholes of the 1600s, basically.
Pretty much. They clashed with everyone. Even the Spanish authorities.
No way.
Oh, yeah. They were exploiting Indian labor, and when a governor tried to rein them in, they threw a tantrum and got him hauled before the Inquisition.
Talk about holding a grudge.
Seriously.
These guys sound like a real pain in the ass. But hey, at least the Native Americans weren't just sitting ducks, right? They fought back.
You bet your ass they did. In 1680, they launched the Pueblo Revolt and kicked the Spanish out of New Mexico for a good 12 years.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it was a total ass-kicking for the Spanish, who had to tuck their tails and run back to Mexico.
That's not the kind of story they brag about in those fancy history books. Damn, so they got a taste of their own medicine. Serves them right. But I guess the Spanish couldn't stay away forever, could they?
Those conquistador genes were itching for more land.
So they came crawling back.
In 1692, with a new governor.
Who was?
Don Diego de Vargas.
Well,
This guy was a bit more cunning. Instead of brute force, he marched into Santa Fe with a statue of the Virgin Mary, and the natives were so awestruck they surrendered without a fight.
wait, so they laid down their arms for a goddamn statue?
It's true.
That's some serious Catholic guilt tripping. Talk about psychological warfare.
Hey, whatever works, right? The Spanish spun it as a bloodless reconquista, a divine victory. To this day, they parade that same statue through Santa Fe every year.
Like a victory lap for their conquering ancestors.
Clever bastards, turning a military defeat into a religious procession. Classic move.
Okay, so the Spanish are back in charge. What happens next in this shit show?
Well, New Mexico stayed under Spanish rule.
What?
Things got shaken up again in the early 1800s
What?
when Mexico decided they'd had enough of those Spanish overlords and declared independence.
The Mexicans finally said, screw this, we're out of here. Who can blame them? Trading one set of masters for another, right?
Right.
But hold on, what about the Hispanos? Where did they fit into this whole Mexican independence thing?
You see, that's where it gets interesting. Suddenly, these Hispanos, who had been living in their own little world for centuries, found themselves as citizens of a brand new country, Mexico.
And how did they feel about that? Were they all like, Viva Mexico? Or were they a bit more hesitant?
Let's just say they weren't exactly thrilled. They didn't trust the central government in Mexico City any more than they trusted the Spanish. So instead of becoming a full-fledged Mexican state, they opted to be a territory, more control over their own affairs.
Smart move. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, especially when those eggs are being run by a bunch of politicians you don't trust. So how did the Mexicans handle running New Mexico? Were they any better than the Spanish?
Not really. There was a lot of class conflict, and
Oh.
the Hispanos were increasingly pissed off at the Mexican government.
Oh.
In 1837, things boiled over and they launched a revolt, even going so far as to execute the Mexican governor.
Whoa, hold up. They killed the governor. Damn, these Hispanos don't mess around. So what happened? Did Mexico send in the troops to crush the rebellion?
They did, but it was another Hispano, a guy named Manuel Armijo, who ended up putting down the revolt. He was a shrewd dude.
Knew how to play both sides.
And eventually became governor himself.
So one Hispano puts down a rebellion led by other Hispanos. Talk about a family feud. But this Armijo guy, he was a good leader then. Kept things running smoothly.
He did a decent job, for a while at least. New Mexico started booming as a trading center.
Between
the U.S., Mexico City, and California.
You know, it's like that saying, when the cat's away, the mice will play.
But the party couldn't last forever, could it?
Nope. You know how it is. Things are going great. Everyone's making money.
And then...
Bam! Uncle Sam comes knocking.
No shit!
Here comes the U.S. cavalry.
Let me guess.
They wanted a piece of that sweet New Mexican pie.
Bingo! In 1846, the Mexican-American War kicks off, and the U.S. Army waltzes right into New Mexico, all smiles and promises of manifest destiny.
Manifest destiny, my ass. More like manifest greed, if you ask me. But hold on, those Hispanos, they weren't just going to roll over and play dead, were they?
Hell no. They weren't about to let another bunch of outsiders waltz in and take over. They teamed up with the Pueblo people.
The same ones they'd been fighting with for centuries.
And launched in another revolt, the Taos Revolt.
Damn, talk about the enemy of my enemy's my friend. So how did this go down? Did the Hispanos and the Pueblos give those Yankee bastards a run for their money?
Let's just say the U.S. Army had better guns and a lot more of them. They crushed the rebellion in a couple of key battles.
And Mexico was forced to cede a huge chunk of their territory, including New Mexico, to the U.S.
Talk about adding insult to injury. So after all that fighting, the Hispanos ended up under U.S. rule. That must have gone over well.
Oh, it was a clusterfuck, to put it mildly. The Hispanos went from being the big dogs to a marginalized minority overnight. Anglos started flooding in, grabbing land left and right, and generally treating the Hispanos like shit.
So basically, the Hispanos got screwed over again. But you know what they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So how did the Hispanos respond to this whole Anglo invasion? Did they just sit back and take it, or did they fight back?
Oh, they fought back all right.
But we'll have to save that story for the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned, folks, because things are about to get really interesting.
Right. Let's pick up where we left off. Remember how we were talking about the Hispanos getting screwed over after the U.S. took over?
Oh, yeah. Those poor bastards.
Well, it wasn't just about land grabs.
It was. No. They also tried to wipe out their language and culture. It's like they wanted to turn these proud, independent people into cookie-cutter Americans.
The classic American assimilation playbook.
Exactly.
Speak English or get the hell out.
It's like those asshats in Washington never learned a damn thing from history.
You got that right.
The U.S. government pushed English in schools and government institutions,
Making it
damn near impossible for Hispanos to use their own language.
So basically, they were treated like second-class citizens in their own damn land. What a bunch of hypocritical asshats.
Didn't those founding fathers preach about freedom and all that bullshit?
Yeah, well, freedom and equality for some, I guess. But, hey, the Hispanos, they weren't about to let some Yankee bureaucrats erase their heritage. They fought tooth and nail to preserve their unique dialect of Spanish.
New Mexican Spanish.
New Mexican Spanish.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of exotic. Is it like Mexican Spanish, but with a twang?
Yeah.
Or maybe some cowboy slang thrown in?
Not quite. It's actually closer to the Spanish spoken in Spain centuries ago, with a bunch of words and phrases you won't find anywhere else.
Really?
Yeah, they even borrowed some words from the Native American languages spoken in the region.
So it's like a linguistic time capsule.
Pretty much.
That's pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's like those Hispanos were saying, fuck you, Uncle Sam. We're going to speak our own damn language, and you can't do a damn thing about it.
They sure as hell did. And to this day, you'll hear New Mexican Spanish spoken all over the state, especially in rural areas.
It's a testament to their resilience, their refusal to let their culture be erased.
Exactly.
You got to respect that. Sticking it to the man by speaking your own damn language. It's like a big middle finger to those assimilationist assholes.
Yeah.
But let's talk politics for a minute. How did these Hispanos navigate the American political landscape? Did they just roll over and play dead? Or did they fight for their rights?
They definitely didn't back down. They formed political organizations, ran for office, and demanded that their voices be heard. Remember those family names we talked about earlier? The Oñates, the Vargas, the Armijos?
Yeah.
Well, you'll find a lot of them in the history books fighting for Hispano rights and representation.
Okay, so they weren't afraid to play the political game, but did they actually achieve anything? Or were they just spinning their wheels in a system rigged against them?
They made some progress. Especially when it came to things like bilingual education and preserving their cultural heritage.
Right.
But let's be real, the struggle for equality is a long and winding road, and the Hispanos faced and still face plenty of obstacles.
It's like,
It's like they're constantly running into a brick wall built by prejudice and discrimination.
yeah, that's the fucked up thing about America. It's all about freedom and opportunity, but only if you fit the mold. If you're different, whether it's your language, your skin color, or your beliefs, then you're constantly fighting an uphill battle.
That's a pretty accurate assessment.
But hey, at least the Hispanos had those badass white caps to back them up.
Those guys were the original gangsters, taking matters into their own hands when the system failed them.
All right, so we've talked about their history, their culture, their fight for their language. What else is there to know about these Hispanos? Are they all just cowboys and farmers, or do they have any other tricks up their sleeves? Well, you know, it's always risky to generalize about an entire group of people. But there's one aspect of Hispano culture that I find particularly fascinating, their strong sense of community and family.
Oh, the whole family comes first thing.
Yeah, isn't that pretty common in most cultures? What makes the Hispano so special?
Sure, but the Hispanos take it to a whole other level. Their families are huge, tightly knit, and fiercely loyal to each other.
Yeah.
They have these elaborate kinship networks that extend far beyond the immediate family. It's like everyone's connected, like a giant web of cousins, aunts, uncles, godparents, you name it.
So it's like a mafia, but without the whole organized crime thing.
Huh. Well, they're definitely not afraid to stick together and protect their own. But it's more about a sense of shared history, culture, and responsibility.
Yeah.
They take care of each other, they celebrate together, they mourn together. It's a beautiful thing, really.
Sounds kind of heartwarming, actually. In a world where everyone is obsessed with themselves, it's refreshing to hear about a culture that values community and connection.
Yeah.
You know, it's like those Hispanos are saying, screw this individualistic bullshit, we're stronger together.
It's definitely something to admire, and it's one of the reasons why Hispano culture has managed to endure despite all the challenges they've faced. It's that sense of belonging, that shared identity that keeps them going.
All right, so we've explored their past, their identity struggles, their badass weaving skills, and even their heartwarming family values.
Right.
But let's be real, we're all here for the dirt, right? What about the skeletons in the closet? Any juicy scandals, hidden secrets, or controversial figures we should know about?
Well, every culture has its share of drama and intrigue, and the Hispanos are no exception. But one story that always stands out is the tale of Padre Martinez.
Padre Martinez.
A priest who challenged the authority of the Catholic Church and became a legendary figure in New Mexico.
A rebellious priest. Now we're talking. Tell me this guy was preaching about free love and sticking it to the Pope.
He wasn't exactly a hippie, but he's definitely a thorn in the side of the church. Padre Martinez was a staunch advocate for Hispano rights and believed that the church should be more responsive to the needs of the local community.
So he was like a spiritual Robin Hood.
Fighting for the little guy.
Taking on the big bad church. I like this guy already.
You could say that. He challenged church doctrine, questioned the authority of the archbishop, and even went so far as to establish his own seminary to train priests who had served the Hispano people. He was like, screw you, Vatican. We're going to do things our own way.
Damn, this guy sounds like a total badass.
Yeah.
Did the church try to shut him down?
Oh, they absolutely did. They excommunicated him.
They did.
Accused him of heresy, and did everything they could to discredit him. But Padre Martinez was a popular figure, and he had the support of many Hispanos who were fed up with the church's heavy-handed tactics.
So he was like a celebrity rebel, the people's champion. What happened to him in the end? Did he die a martyr, or did he manage to stick it to the church one last time?
Well, he eventually reconciled with the church, but his legacy as a maverick priest and a defender of Hispano rights lives on to this day.
He's a symbol of
that independent spirit that runs deep in Hispano culture.
What a legend. A priest who stands up to the church and fights for his people. That's the kind of story that gives me hope for humanity. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've seen how the Hispanos have faced countless challenges, from land grabs to language suppression, but they've always managed to persevere, preserving their culture, their traditions, and their unique identity. But there's one question that keeps nagging at me. What about the future? What does the future hold for these Hispanos in a rapidly changing world? Are they going to get swallowed up by the American melting pot? Or will they find a way to thrive on their own terms?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The Hispanos, like many minority groups in the U.S., are at a crossroads. They're grappling with issues of assimilation, gentrification, and the erosion of their traditional way of life.
It's like they're being squeezed from all sides.
Yeah, the world is changing fast, and it's not always for the better.
So are they doomed to become just another footnote in American history? Or can they hold on to their unique identity in a world that's increasingly homogenized?
Not if they have anything to say about it. The Hispanos have a long history of resilience and adaptation. They've always found a way to make their voices heard, to fight for their rights,
And to
keep their culture alive.
Okay, so there's hope. They're not going down without a fight.
Hell no. The Hispanos are here to stay, and they're ready to make their mark on the 21st century. But their future will depend on their ability to navigate the complexities of modern America, to bridge the gap between tradition and progress, and to build coalitions with other groups who share their values of community, justice, and equality. It's a tough road ahead, but they've faced tough roads before.
You know, it's like those Hispanos are saying, we're not going anywhere, assholes. We're here to stay. We're going to make sure our voices are heard. And you know what? I believe them. All right, folks, we've reached the end of part 2 of this epic journey. But we're not done yet.
There's still so much more to explore.
Let's grab another beer, stretch your legs,
Yeah.
and get ready for the final chapter of this deep dive.
All right, let's get back into it. We were talking about the challenges these Hispanos faced.
Yeah, constantly getting screwed over by Uncle Sam and his cronies. It's enough to make you want to grab a pitchfork and storm the Capitol.
Well, violence isn't always the answer.
Speak for yourself. I'm all about a good old-fashioned revolution every now and then. But seriously, how do these Hispanos deal with those clowns in Washington?
Ah, yes, the U.S. government. You could say the Hispanos have had a long and complicated relationship with those asshats.
Complicated. It's more like a toxic love affair gone wrong.
It's a love-hate thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like a bad marriage you just can't seem to get out of.
To put it mildly, they've been betrayed, exploited, and ignored by the powers that be. So how the hell do they deal with that shit? Do they just bend over and take it, or do they fight back?
Well, they've tried a little bit of both over the years. Sometimes they cooperate, sometimes they protest, and sometimes they just say, screw it, and focus on building their own communities. You know, it's like that old saying, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself.
Damn straight. But let's be real, the government hold all the cards. Those bastards have the money, the power, the whole damn system rigged in their favor. How do the Hispanos even stand a chance against those bureaucratic bulldozers?
It's tough, no doubt. But remember, they've got that strong sense of community we talked about.
Yeah.
It translates into political power, too.
How so?
They've learned to organize, to mobilize, to make their voices heard.
Strength in numbers, huh?
Yeah.
So they basically gang up on the politicians and make them listen. I can dig that.
It's not quite as simple as that, but their votes definitely matter. Especially in New Mexico, where they make up a significant chunk of the population. Politicians have to at least pretend to care about their concerns if they want to get elected.
So it's all about kissing babies, making promises they'll never keep, all that bullshit.
Yeah, well, welcome to American politics.
Sounds pretty damn cynical.
But the Hispanos haven't just been playing defense.
They haven't.
No. They've also learned how to work within the system, to build alliances with other groups, and to leverage their cultural heritage as a source of strength. They're not just reacting, they're shaping the agenda, too.
Okay, so they're not just a bunch of angry rebels. They know how to play nice when it suits them.
They're definitely not afraid to raise hell when they need to, but they also understand that progress often requires compromise and negotiation. You know, it's like a dance. Sometimes the lead, sometimes you follow, but you always got to keep moving.
Fair enough. But let's be real. Compromise only gets you so far. What about the big issue, the systemic shit that keeps them down? What are they doing about that?
Yeah.
You can't just negotiate away racism and poverty.
That's where things get complicated. There's no easy answer, no magic bullet. But one thing that's become increasingly important is education.
Education? You mean like sending their kids to college so they can become lawyers and doctors and all that? Is that really going to change the system?
It's part of it, sure. But it's also about empowering future generations to challenge the status quo, to fight for their rights, and to create a more just and equitable society. It's about teaching them critical thinking skills about their history and culture, about how to navigate the complexities of the world.
So it's a long game. Plant the seeds now and hope they grow into something powerful.
Exactly. It's about investing in the future, in their communities, in their cultural heritage. It's about passing on the torch to the next generation and trusting them to carry it forward.
All right, I can get behind that. So we've talked about their history, their culture, their struggles, their triumphs. What's the takeaway from all this?
Yeah.
What's the one thing you want our listeners to remember about the Hispanos of New Mexico?
That's easy. They're a testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome adversity. They've been through more shit than most people can imagine, but they've never given up. They've adapted, they've resisted, they've created something beautiful and unique. They're a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, it's possible to hold on to your culture, your values, and your sense of self.
Damn straight. They're a shining example of what it means to be truly resilient. They've been knocked down, but they always get back up, stronger than ever. And you know what? That gives me hope. Hope for the future, hope for humanity, hope for all of us who are fighting for a better world.
Well said. They remind us that even in the darkest of times, there's always a spark of hope, a flicker of resistance, a refusal to be silenced.
And that's a beautiful thing. All right, folks, that's a wrap on our deep dive into the world of the Hispanos of New Mexico. It's been a wild ride, full of twists and turns, but damn, it's been worth it. We hope you learned a thing or two, had a few laughs, and maybe even got a little inspired along the way.
And who knows? Maybe you'll even decide to dig a little deeper into this fascinating history yourself. You never know what treasures you might uncover.
That's right. Go explore. We'll catch you on the flip side for another deep dive where we'll unpack some other mind-blowing shit. Until then, stay curious, stay rebellious, and stay thirsty for knowledge, you magnificent bastards.